Good afternoon, everybody. Richard Clippen here. Very warm welcome to the FSC Connect session for day one of level 3. Aren't we all enjoying the takeaways and going crazy, not being hemmed in? Certainly happening here on Waiheke Island, where I live. The purpose of today's session, as it was the purpose of Friday's session, is over today on Friday and then this coming Friday, effectively to reprise the Get in Shape seminar series. And basically that's helping all of us in the advice community come to grips with what does the FSLA changes mean. Obviously, we've now been given a 12-month delay. What does it mean? What's the big picture strategic issues was Friday's conversation. Today's conversation is very much about the advisor voice speaking through. And then Friday's conversation coming is all about, from a governance and compliance perspective, what should people be thinking of? So really delighted with the response, been absolutely fantastic, and absolutely delighted to welcome Trisha Edmonds and her all-star panel, who she will introduce to be with us for the next 30 to 40 odd minutes or so. So a very warm welcome to them. For those who are new to Zoom, if you just go to the bottom of your chat bar, there are already people chatting away. So feel free to use that to ask questions, chat away, use the Q&A button as well. From experience, the more interactive, the more you participate, the richer the experience is for everyone. On that note, Trisha, over to you and a warm welcome, and we're in for a treat. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard, and welcome everybody. Yes, I had a box of courier-delivered treats arrive to me this morning, so yes, we're definitely at level 3. Look, welcome everybody to this advisor session for advisors by advisors, and I'm thrilled to have with me today an expert panel of 4. And I'd like to introduce them to you. So Tony Munro from Munro Financial. Tony specialises in investment advice. We have Brian Burgess from Swain Woodham with insurance advice. John O'Leong from 9 Yards Financial Services across mortgage broking and lending. And Peter Leach with a foot in both camps on insurance and investment. Look, right at the start, Richard said this session is about you, so we're really encouraging you as participants to send your questions through. I'll make sure that I grab those questions and allocate them to each of the panel. These are unprecedented times, and this group of 4 have managed, like all of you, to keep their businesses running successfully and manage to continue engaging with their clients. Look, before we get into it, just a couple of comments. I worked with Andrew Inwood from Core Logic at the beginning of this year when FSC ran some fantastic Getting in Shape roadshows around New Zealand. And I spoke to Andrew about the value of advice and what were his thoughts on that. And he suggested to me that an advisor adds per annum in value around 2 to 3%. And I thought, you know, possibly I thought that it's a little bit more than that. So I did a little bit of research in the weekend and I looked at a paper that had been written on New Zealand advisors during 2019. And the paper determined that the value of advice added by a New Zealand advisor in 2019 was more like 5%. So we can't absolutely underestimate the value of advice. Now, I said to each of the panelists, I'd like them to open with just a kind of a 1 to 2 minute dissertation on the following question. And the question is, how ready was your business to adapt to working from home, to accessing digital capability and engaging with your clients? So, Tony, I'm going to hand over for you 1 to 2 minutes. If you could just answer that question, thank you.
Thank you, Trishi. How ready were we? Surprisingly ready, I suppose. Like everybody, we were caught by the speed of the levels, if you like. Very lucky with my team, they're quite IT savvy, and so we were able to have a couple of sort of quick gatherings and meetings and work out how were we going to run this. So I think probably one of the most important things I did as we ran into lockdown was take the advice of my PA, who said, take your office chair. And I can't tell you how valuable that has been, because around the kitchen table it would be quite uncomfortable, I think, if I was in that particular chair. So look, we run a practice which is very much in tune with our clients from an email perspective. 55% of our clients live outside of Canterbury, so we're kind of forced, and have always been that way, to communicating with them electronically. We use Baseplate's CRM, we use the One Answer Portfolio Service and Aegis. So just about everything we do has its basis in electronic communications. What we started doing just prior to the level 2, 3, and then of course 4, but in that week prior, we sent a commentary to all our clients, just trying to make some sense of what was going on. A week later, we found ourselves again in a changed situation, and so then sending another communication. And it then became obvious to us that we actually needed to send this communication to our clients every week whilst we were in this period of lockdown, that communication was the river on which progress was going to flow. And I think we've had some really good progress. One of the challenges with being sort of so communicating, if you like, with your clients is that they tend to reply. And now you've got a problem, because now you've got to be able to sort of distribute that work. So my team and I had different rules about who was dealing with what, where, and how, and why. And all the phones would come through to me, essentially, initially. A lot of our general emails would go to one of my team. Another would be running reports on how we can interrogate the data of our clients and give them the right advice. Because that was the other thing that we found. All of a sudden, all the research, all the information, all the intel, all the models you had up to the 15th of March were wrong. And so how do you give advice when all of a sudden everything's changed, the world has gone on its end, and you need to give advice about company X, Y, Z, this fund, that fund, and more in particular, what does the client's position look like? So we've probably been, like most of you, I guess, a wee bit defensive coming out of 2019 into 2020, because the markets just looked so rich. And then you've got the great quandary of what do you do with that cash? Do you start plowing into it? Because this isn't a GFC, this is something completely different. So those have been questions that have been plaguing us for the last 4 weeks. And one of the interesting things has been trying to stop people from putting too much money into the market. They want to rush and start investing. So we've had really in fact, that's not quite. We had one client who was trying to do withdrawals, and we in fact assisted her to do that. She was quite panicked, despite our best advice, which was don't do that. But anyway, everyone's different. And so it was very important that we try and line ourselves up quickly with how every individual person was thinking and then model around that.
Thanks, Tony. Look, I apologise. I understand that you've got some difficulty listening to me. It's not me that you're here to listen to anyway, but apologies for that. So thanks, Tony. Brian, your answers, please.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you. I think we were ready. We sort of saw it coming, really. I've got a business partner who is spending a year in Scotland, sort of on a sabbatical, sort of catching up with his family over there, and we were in pretty constant communication, sort of 2 weeks sort of behind them, really, as things were evolving over there. So we decided that we would run a practice day the week before the levels were announced, and that was really helpful and useful because we brought some technology for the admin team to take home. We just got to iron out little wrinkles there. I think it was a good, strong response. Not everything was perfect. We had a slight miscommunication with our phone company as to whether we could take our phones home, but it's high-level technology that we can do transfers on everything we want. So the phone system was very adaptable. Everything we do is online. We also found that communication was key. It's been the driver and probably will form the basis of everything I talk about today, because communication with your clients through this has been the absolute key to everything, really. Communication with the staff, I don't think you can over-communicate. We've just found that we've got focused. We had the platforms there all ready to go, not always utilising them. So one example is Microsoft Teams. I have run Microsoft Teams and I couldn't see the value of it, really, but now the focus has brought it to the point where we really couldn't operate without it. So we're collaborating on documents. Everybody's just getting on with the job as normal. It's been quite encouraging to see the way the staff has embraced working from home. We've got no productivity issues. We're really, really proud of them. We've just managed to get our transitional license through. Most of that work has been done during lockdown. We've onboarded a new financial advisor. That was one blind spot, I think, from my point of view, that we didn't quite we're as advanced as we could have been. We've completed the whole body of work through lockdown. So I think we've adopted reasonably well. So sort of upwards and onwards.
Well done, Brian. You've obviously been very busy. That's fantastic. Jono, how have you been going?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Trisha. I mean, like, physically, we were great. You know, we had all the technology ready, except for actually myself. I was one of the hundreds of people down at the local IT store lining up to get computer screens and a computer for home, because my home office doesn't exist. I literally had to kick the kids out of their playroom to set up a home office. So from that side of things, probably not ideal. But as far as all of our records, our client client records, client files, ability to contact and communicate effectively, no, we were really, really good. Right from the onset of our company, we decided to be as paperless as possible. So all of our systems have been set up to literally be able to work remotely from anywhere in the world. So from that side of things, not much really changed in how we operate. Really, it's just been a little bit on the working from home has its own challenges, has its own distractions. Kids obviously being one of them, and that's probably been the harder part to try and adapt to. In reality, I mean, we had some really good communications go out to our clients really early on, as far as being able to engage with them, to try and I guess one, just update them with the communication on what was actually going on as far as their position was concerned, and then how we could actually assist. And we had, the first few weeks were absolutely manic, full of responses from clients. And then probably week 3, it started to die down, but we're starting to creep back up again, back into that engagement, which is fantastic. So we were kind of prepared, but also kind of not, if that's an acceptable answer.
Cool, thanks, Jono. And Mr. Leach, over to you.
Welcome to you all. I was reasonably well organised. I had my screens up at my house about 15 minutes to midnight prior to level 4 lockdown. So I'd like to think I was pretty well prepared with that. Certainly having the 2 screens from the office back to home has been great. I've got a Surface Pro as well, and I've also bought my sort of office computer, so pretty well set up. It was important to have my own space in the house, unfortunately big enough for that despite the teenagers coming home. In terms of, my phone has been forwarded, so hopefully I'm not missing phone calls. I've had an awful lot of outbound calls to clients just to talk through what's going on. Haven't had too many. Probably where I'm busiest is just organising some premium suspensions for clients whose incomes have stopped on the risk side. Certainly the week or so of late March where the investments were going all crazy. Surprising little contact, but I'd like to hope that sort of is reflective of some advice that we've probably all as advisors given our clients over the years to, not panic and just, you've got to ride the ups and the downs, and if you want the growth, you've got to have the other side of the highs. So we run Xplan here at Share, so everything is there in Xplan. I'm one who's loved paper in the past, but certainly this has shown to me that it's probably a little bit archaic now. So it's all good, and actually enjoying Zoom too. To start with, wasn't much at it. I had a go with it last year and didn't think there was much of a future in it, but having had a few sessions over a few beers with some different people, you get quite good at it. So doing it in front of clients is pretty easy now.
Cool, thanks, Pete. And look, I'm getting a number of questions coming through, so thank you, everybody. I'm going to pose a couple of questions to each of the panelists, and again, just 1 to 2 minutes on this. Someone's interested to know what percentage of your clients you've been in touch with. So has that been inbound or outreach calls? And I guess when you answer that, thinking about how will level 3 change the way you work, if at all. So that's what percentage of your clients have been in touch with, and how will level 3 change the way you work, if at all. So perhaps if we could start off with you, Jono.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as in touch with clients, so we sent out an email to 100% of our clients, and then started on a calling program, basically. So we probably got in touch with, best guesstimate would be about 70% of our clients over the course of the last 4 weeks. And that would be a best guess. And then as far as level 3 is probably not going to affect the way that we operate too much. I think it'll help for particularly for some of our suppliers who we work with, that we might be able to get some additional efficiency out of them, as some of them will return to their offices and things, and also with some of our clients as well. They'll just have a better idea about what they're doing. But as far as how we operate, I don't think it'll make too much of a change.
Thanks, Jono. Tony, what about you?
Just unmute myself. Again, I think we had 100% communication with 100% of our clients and have done every week. I guess the first week of lockdown, we went out to all our clients and said, look, we understand this is your current cash position. Give us an understanding as to if there's more cash that's available to be investing. Because at that point in time, we were fielding all sorts of queries via email, predominantly, thank goodness, asking us, what should we be doing? So we thought, try and get on the front foot on that, not be reacting, but in fact being proactive and saying to the clients, look, it is a time to be thinking about your position. It may be a time to be investing. So have we got a full picture if we're going to be investing? And that then gave us a lot of replies, that then gave us sort of, if you like, a short list of, I can't remember the numbers now, it might have been 15 or 20, that sort of said, look, here, there's this pile of dough, what are we going to do? And that forced my team and I then to a lot of work around analysing what were we going to do and then making those particular suggestions. So I think our proactivity has been definitely around the email more so than the telephone, just more reacting to the phone as it calls.
Cool. What about you, Brian?
Fairly similar to Peter, really, and 100% by email to everybody. It's sort of one time in my life where I'm sort of proud to say that we've been very reactive rather than proactive through this, especially for that first week or two. But I've been preferring the phone, even responding to emails by phone, because it's just that connection we make. I've got some sort of wireless headphones and I wander around the house like Gordon Gekko thinking I'm doing deals, but I'm just not making any money. I guess I'd say would be, I probably couldn't give you an exact number, but probably 50 or 60% of connected, talking to the other guys who they've been in touch with. So long days on the phone, and I don't know if you can tell my voice is just a little bit croaky today. I'm just overworking the things, but I always sort of see insurance advisor as quite a privileged position in people's lives. So when they're reaching out to us, we really, we want to connect and we want to be there for them. And obviously we're getting a lot of people struggling with finances. We're not rushing to premium relief unless we have to. I've got a rolling list of folks that I'm going to have to call back because we've sort of talked through their financial situation and they're good for another month. That's their words, not mine. But I'll be talking to a travel agent after this call, and I think we know that that'll probably be straight into premium relief. So it's horses for courses, but I'm just loving the connection with folk. I'm loving sort of being there for them. It's the reason I do this. So we're sort of seeing it like a claims type situation, and it's a privileged place to be in, and hopefully we're doing it well.
Thank you. Good words, Brian, and you're quite right. Privileged place to be in. Pete, do you want to have a shot at this question?
Oh, perhaps just on level 3. I don't see a deal of change at all with level 3. I think people are probably, as perhaps this coming month progresses, you'll get a bit more anxiety about whether it's going to go to level 2, and if it doesn't, I think that's going to be an issue for many businesses, in particular with the cash flow being problematic. I've certainly focused on contacting my segment and client base a bit more. The team here have contacted a number, and she has sent out newsletters to all clients. So I think being in touch is very important, and people want to know. Is that the old saying in this business is people don't care how much you know; they want to know how much you care. And I think this is the time when we can show that to our clients, and I think that's a sector as well. I think insurers and fund managers have all been up in their communication out. Perhaps to the extent that you kind of think, oh my God, it's another email about COVID-19. But we've got the ability to filter that, and I think we have to do the same for our clients and let them know that they're important to us.
Peter, I'm going to throw this question back at you, and then I'll get you, Brian, just to give your thoughts as well. One of the questions is, how are you planning to gain traction in respect to new business, more specifically on risk in the near future, without being perceived to be product-driven? So, Pete, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, for anybody who writes risk, of course, you'll know that it can take a long time for things to pass through a pipeline. And I guess good advisors have got a pretty lengthy pipe because they need it. And so at the moment I've got a reasonable amount in the pipe, but it's a case of continuing to fill that up because not everything comes out the bottom. And as we know, underwriting's got tougher, and potentially if prices change because of what's going on, then that's going to affect it even more. So I think it's just being in touch with people, reminding them what we do. Circumstances do change. I've got a client who's growing in this environment, and in fact, so although we can have assumptions that everybody's finding it tough, it's there are businesses that do and will be going well, and people who will be wanting to reflect on their cover and actually think about, well, things can happen unexpectedly and maybe I should get some more cover. So it's about knowing that you're available to them.
Yeah, well done. Thank you. Brian, thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'd totally agree with Peter there. We, like I said before, we've been quite reactive in dealing with the inquiries that have come through, but we're seeing opportunity there as well. We've had special events increases requested by clients. I think it's business as usual. If it's a big deal in our head, it's going to be a big deal for them. So it's not a big deal. It's very much just business as usual. We've got an offering. One of the themes that we've seen is client engagement is significantly up. So the response to the review email is increased dramatically. Not the usual. You ring them up and they say, "Look, we're all good. Nothing's changed." They want to talk to you. So I think we saw this here in Christchurch post-earthquake, that people become very aware of how things work. I do think people are seeing the value of advice and understanding that there's got to be significant value in talking to an advisor and understanding just exactly how things do work and what doesn't work. But we've got a good story to tell. We can't insure everything. We found that through the earthquake with pandemics. But having said that, we can insure an awful lot. And I think people are engaged and willing and ready to listen. So just head out there and do what you've always done, perhaps with a different bent. So we've engaged a marketing company, so we're going to try and have a look at going to the market a little bit differently to what we've done in the past. And so we've done a full 2-hour debrief with the marketing expert, and what they were just blown away with was the stories, because I'm very much into the claim, and I am one of those people that really genuinely does care. So when I told a few stories, and that it really is a reminder of what we do and the value we bring. So it'll only be a problem for us and our clients if it's a problem for us, I should say. So just get out there and do it. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you're right. There are some good stories that come out of situations like this. Tony, I've got one here for you, and it's talking about managing client anxiety and stress when people are wanting to switch funds, for example, from growth to conservative. What are your thoughts around that? And clients willing to crystallise losses when they shouldn't be doing that?
Thanks, Trisha. As I said, we really only had one situation like that. It was a very big portfolio. She had retired about a year ago, I suppose, and she's got a couple of kids overseas. And this was sort of, almost ground zero as that first week. It was pretty scary stuff. And so she was very adamant. I've worked with this lady for, 15 years or something. So I know her quite well. And I knew that she was just completely panicked. She was trying to withdraw all of the shares and all of the property funds. I managed to convince her to, in fact, take 70%, leave 30% of what she was proposing, which was a massive change. The good news is she's got a lot of money in her portfolio. So in terms of crystallising the loss, and that's very true. So we've since looked at her portfolio and tried to work out, how do we repair this now? And that's the greatest challenge, because when you look at her portfolio results compared to just about every other strategy we've got, she has the worst position because she has quite literally realised that loss. And now we've got to try to push back into those markets very carefully. Of course, the thing is, this game isn't over. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 years. I think we make a lot of comparisons to this crisis and other crises we've all seen. It's not, it's different. So, you've got to be very careful about pushing her from that very more defensive position to a more aggressive, even though I fundamentally believe that's the right thing to do. That's my bias. So I've got to listen to what she really wants. And she's got enough money, conservatively invested, losses realised, to see her through and her family. It's cash is cash. It's not always risky.
Correct. John, I've got one here for you. And and they're asking really about your business processes. How have you changed your process for doing new business through Zoom, for example, particularly how you find new prospects and their engagement with the Zoom meeting process, or in fact any technologies that you're using?
Yeah, so to be fair, we haven't necessarily used Zoom a whole heap for new clients. We've used it quite a lot internally and for some existing clients. Haven't used it really too much for new clients. Been dealing predominantly with them over via email and over the phone at this point. We do think that Zoom definitely, or other platforms definitely do have their place as far as new client meetings are concerned. But that really, for us, hasn't probably been a focus over the last 4 weeks in finding new business. It really has been managing the business that we do, or the clients that we do have. Obviously, as level 3 progresses and level 2 comes on, that'll become more and more of the focus. But unfortunately, just as of within this last 4 weeks, it hasn't been a focus. So we really I wouldn't be able to tell you what technology changes have been made. But yeah, for us, email and phone have been absolutely key. And we have done the occasional Zoom meeting with clients that we did already know.
Donna, I know that there's not just you in the business, you have work colleagues and staff that work for you. Someone's interested in how you've managed your team through the ups and downs, and it's not just about workflow, it's about, the team culture and looking out for your people. So how have you managed that?
Yeah, communication is number one. Right from the outset, I guess we kind of agreed on at least, keeping in touch every couple of days at least, or more. And we use chat groups and things to keep in touch, just to literally chat about anything, which is really helpful. And then at least once a week, we kind of try and have a bit of a refocus meeting, particularly as things have changed. Once we'd contacted all of our clients, what was the next thing? How can we start to work on the business a bit more, and how can you start to do, whatever else? So the refocusing meetings were quite key. The chat, though, was probably the best by all, for mentality and everything. And in my mind, you can't expect people to be working, their normal hours. Their normal kind of days. You can't expect people to be in front of a computer 8 hours a day at all. It's just not realistic. So I guess we had certain things that we needed to get completed. Once they were completed, we just kind of kept communication up to keep morale up more than anything else.
Cool, thank you. And Tony, I'll put the same question to you. I know you've got staff members dotted around the place. So how's the connectivity and engagement been with them?
Very, very good. I've got to say, they suggested in that first week that we should have a Wednesday debrief using Zoom. It was, I think, Microsoft prior to that. So we've had a couple of cracks at different technologies. But typically, it's a 4 o'clock start, and it's usually with a wine. I think my liver probably has still trying to work out what recovery it's going to need once this all stops. Because it's not just your staff, it's then your colleagues, it's your mates. And, I think we all understand Zoom has become quite an important tool for socialising too. But no, we have a debrief every week face-to-face through this technology. We're certainly in contact with each other through text and through emails all the time. And look, I agree with the others. Your staff, your team, they're the most important asset you've got at all, full stop, exclamation mark. The other things that we've been talking about is the relationships, and that's really what it's all about. We're in our relationships with our staff and with our clients. So if I didn't have the team that I've got, there's just no way I'd cope with what's been going on this last 4 weeks. No way. It was a tsunami that happened over a period of 3 or 4 weeks. So they're so important.
Yeah, good words, Tony, good words. Now for Pete and Brian, a couple of questions here that kind of dovetail into each other. So Pete, I'll start with you. How much new business have you actually written over the last 5 weeks, and have you managed to get any new clients during level 4?
Yes, I've done some new business. A lot of that's just through group health plans that I have, and so staff are still coming on. I guess since 2008, I've built my business on a renewal basis, so it doesn't really matter whether I do new business or not. Obviously, you need to keep the pipe full, but that hasn't been a focus for me for many years now. So I guess I'm fortunate in that way, and I would encourage everybody out there to think of their risk business as a genuine renewal business. in terms of going out and continuing to see people, it's really about right now, I think, existing clients and referrals that I'm going to get from them just through providing excellent service.
Cool, thanks, Pete. What about you, Brian?
Yes, we have. Our youngest advisor had a colossal week, week 2 of the lockdown. Interestingly, referrals are still coming in, but a bit like Pete, that's not really my focus at the moment. Yep, there's top-ups coming in. I am having the conversation around special events increases and new babies are being born, but my focus really has been on looking after existing clients. But a younger advisor with less clients has been free to just get out there and chase it, and he's done really, really well. So we know, I've been on calls with CEOs, there are people that are writing good numbers at the moment. So we know that can happen, but like Pete, that's not really been my strong focus, but it's certainly where we need to go and where we will be going shortly. So I think it would be fair to say everybody's written business through this, but not normal levels, to be sure.
Cool, thanks, Brian. Jono, for you, I guess, we're going into a new environment in the next 2 weeks. We've had a staggered approach now getting through to level 2. So what sort of issues do you expect to see emerging over the coming few weeks, particularly in your special skill area?
The big one, the big concern for me is business cash flow. That for me is the number one concern. I mean, I deal with a lot of business owners, and help them out. Help them throughout a lot of their business and their staff as well. And that's the thing that really concerns me is that cash. I think a lot of people currently will have got the government subsidies and are still feeling pretty flush with the cash that was paid out for the 12 weeks, and we're only 4 weeks in now. But as that starts to become more and more real for people, as it starts to go back to business as usual, whether or not they can actually get cash in from their customers is going to be really, really key, and how many contracts fall over or whatnot. So for me, that's the number one concern that I have at the moment.
Cool. Pete, what about you? What sort of issues do you expect to see?
I expect to see people, certainly already a number of clients have had haircuts on their incomes, and that obviously has a direct impact on their ability to spend money on the things that we talk about. At the same time, they've recognised how much money they spend on coffee, and I think to some extent booze, and probably this week they're going to realise how much they spend on takeaways as well. And whilst I wouldn't want to take any of that money out of that sector right now that they need it, but these sorts of things do make people reflect on where they spend their money and what their priorities are in life. And I think as good advisors, we're there to help them assess what those priorities are and where they need to allocate money. And sometimes that means less of one and more than another. And none of us have the benefit of hindsight. But, I think many of the sorts of panels that we've been involved with, or the sort of seminars that we've been able to go on, whether it's through suppliers or Financial Advice New Zealand or indeed FSC, there are endearing messages there in terms of keeping in touch, showing the clients how much you care, and also it's an opportunity for us to reflect on our own businesses as well and what's important. And I've got Joe and Sarah, my team, and then the broader share team, and we're all working for the benefit of our clients. And sometimes I get frustrated incredibly at how long it might take to work out or get feedback from an insurer about what things cost, but that's just everybody's in the same circumstance where they're all working from home. So we must remember that.
Yeah, good segue to this question for you, Tony. I guess what for you are the 2 biggest issues that the advice community, and I mean the whole advice community in New Zealand, what should be focusing on? So the 2 biggest issues.
Sorry, Trish, what the 2 big issues the advice community should be focused on? Yep. Good question. I suppose harks back a little bit, I think, to what everyone's been saying, Peter in particular. I think immediately right now, it's cash. I mean, my instinct as an investor is to be buying into some of these discounts that we see. But as I say, you've got to be very careful, because I think cash is king. It's the one thing that I think we've got to be sure we've got enough of to see people through, because things will change. I think the reverse of that as well is that in this period of shutdown, for those of us who've got cash coming in, we haven't been spending it at the coffee shop or the movies or the pub or anything else. So there's a whole lot more money that's floating around as well. I'm not sure. I think clearly we're going to have a new approach to how we do things. Technology is going to play a bigger role. I think the position that New Zealand financial advisors find themselves, we are very trusted. I think we're very lucky. I think there's a lot of different messages that get sent out to the public, and there are different ways of doing things. So I think our goal, really, all of us, needs just to be to continue to communicate. We have to be the advice providers. No offence, Trisha, to the banks, but I think it's the private advisors that are in their own practices, that are doing the work hand in hand with their clients. They've got such a massive role to play. So I don't think I've got any comment to answer your question, except I'm very proud to be where we are and bring on the next 10 years, because we've never been needed more than we are now.
Absolutely agree, absolutely. And I think all of our people that have dialed in today would agree. Look, we've quickly run out of time. That has gone very, very fast, but we have got about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists if you can kind of just give us your last words of wisdom, your last, I guess, offers of what you think has worked well in your business. So I'm going to start with you, Brian. 1 minute on your words of wisdom.
Right. Well, it's really just echoing what's already been said. I think technology is clearly a big factor in moving forward. Look, the market is, the landscape has completely changed, and like Pete, we're doing a few virtual drinks with friends. We're video conferencing non-stop. So the market's been changed. The people that would have resisted that previously are now just living with it. It's just the new normal. So technology would be the big one, and the other one that has been said multiple times is communication. Just keep that communication up. You cannot over communicate through these times. I think we're in good shape as an industry going forward because, like Tony said, we've never been needed more. There was a question that I saw go through the chat bot a minute ago, just asking, about doing new business on Zoom. Absolutely, I really had never used Zoom when we started this process, and like everybody else, I've rapidly adopted because I am dealing primarily with an existing client base. I was talking to folks that I've already got a relationship with, that I know and have some history with, and I was quite concerned about how it would work with somebody that I've never met. And of course, now I've had a few of those, and it turns out I'm just as charming on screen as I am in person. So I think as an advisor, we're all just starting to wake up to how much time we wasted in our cars. We can channel our inner Gordon Ramsay at night. We can go for walks with our wife and still get more productive days because we're not sitting in a car wasting time. So I don't know if that's wisdom, Trish, but that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Brian. Jono, your pearls of wisdom.
Mine would be, focus on your business while you've got the time. As you got the time to actually think and stop and reflect a little bit. Focus a little bit on your business, actually doing some work within it. If you need to get up to speed with technology, then do that. Really focus on the marketing side of things, because like Tony and just like Brian just said then, we are going to be more needed than probably ever before. And so how many people we can reach is absolutely key. So getting our skill set out to the people as far as possible is absolutely key. So yes, if you're going to spend money on things, for me, it's things like marketing, it's things like in your business technology. See if you can get as efficient as possible.
Correct, and I think marketing's come up a couple of times now. Mr. Leach, your thoughts?
I've got a couple of thoughts. Certainly the first one is, never waste a good crisis, and you'd have to describe today and the last month as a crisis, so don't waste it. And that is certainly about looking at what you're good at and what you're not so good at, thinking about the tools that you've got in your business and how they can be used to more of a digital delivery. I still think we need humanised advice, and whatever the robots might say, they still want people like Brian and Jono and Tony and me and Trish to help them, because they want to actually have a real person helping them. So I think we still need the talking head, or whether it's a voice on the phone. And the last thing I'd say is stay connected with your colleagues. I rang a guy, an advisor in Wellington on Friday, and he wondered if I was ringing because I'd come across a client that I wanted to buy off him. And I said, no, I just wanted to ring up and see how you were. And so I think for all of us, we should try and reach out this week and maybe see 1 or 2 people or connect with them and just see how they're going, because it's always been a bit of a lonely business, and I think we can share a lot with our clients, but actually we need to share with each other as advisors, because we do have our own issues that we've all got to talk about and just stay connected with. So there's my 2 cents worth.
Fantastic advice, Pete. Well done. And Tony, I'll let you finish with your pearls of wisdom.
Thanks, Trish. And as you know, I like to always be the one to finish. I'm not sure I've got any to add much value to those wonderful pearls already, except to say, take some time for yourselves as well. I've found that whilst working at home, whilst it's great, the problem is there's no off button. You kind of walk past the computer every day and you just keep going back to the last thing. I guess the other thing is also we've got a few changes coming our way in terms of regulation, and I think one of the questions we threw around that might be asked was about whether that should be delayed further. What does it look like? I, for one, think we should just keep pushing forwards. There's a lot of communication about what that change was going to be. I know it's been pushed back a bit, but I think let's just push on and get it going. Get our name out there, tell them that we are to be trusted.
Great. And look, thank you all for being so honest. And I think what I've learned from this is that each of you have spent time on your business. You've put money and time and resource into your business, and we all care about each other, and that comes through very clearly from here. So I'm going to end with Pete Leach's bit of advice, and that is pick up the phone to one of your colleagues this week and just say hi. It's not about anything to do with business, it's just saying hi. So look, thanks to each of you for your time. I know you've all been busy. I hope all of you who have participated and listened to the call have found some benefit from it. And thanks again to the FSC for hosting these calls. So take care, everybody. Have a lovely rest of an afternoon, and thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.